The evening sky was painted with soft colors of orange and purple. The forest stood quiet except for the sound of wind moving through tall trees. Birds were already returning to their nests and the world felt calm. But for one man, this calm was only on the outside. Inside, he carried a storm. His name was Daniel, a widower, a man who once had a family but now lived in silence. His wife had died 2 years ago, and ever since his house felt like a hollow place. Every corner whispered of loss. Every night was heavy with memories. He had stopped dreaming. He had stopped hoping. Life had become only about survival. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. One evening, Daniel walked deeper into the forest behind his small home. He liked these walks because they gave him a chance to escape the emptiness of his house. But that day, something unusual caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a trick of light. Through the trees, he saw a faint glow like a lantern in the dark. Curious, he stepped closer, careful not to make a sound. His heart began to beat faster. The glow grew brighter, and soon he saw something that made him stop breathing for a moment. There was a girl, not a normal girl. Her skin was pale, almost silver, glowing softly under the fading sunlight. Her hair shimmered as if made of fine strands of starlight. She looked young, but not like any human Daniel had ever seen. Her eyes were large, bright, and carried the kind of depth that made him freeze in place. She was not from Earth, he knew it instantly. The girl was working. She was building something. In front of her was a half-made house, strange in design yet familiar in shape. Brick by brick she placed pieces together. But these were not ordinary bricks. They glowed faintly as if alive with energy. When she placed one brick on another, the seam sealed itself, shining for a moment before dimming. Daniel hid behind a tree, watching. His breath was shallow, his body tense. He wanted to run, but his legs would not move. His fear was strong, but stronger was his curiosity. Who is she? What is she doing here? He thought. The girl worked slowly, carefully. She did not use tools like humans. Instead, a small floating object like a silver sphere moved around her. It carried bricks to her hand. When she pressed her palm against the glowing surface, the brick shifted, changing shape slightly, and then it fit perfectly in place. Daniel stared in awe. It was not just construction. It was art. It was something far beyond human technology. Minutes passed, but Daniel did not move. His eyes followed every action she made. Sometimes she stopped, tilted her head, and looked at the sky as if listening to voices far away. Then she would hum a strange tune, a soft melody that sounded both sad and beautiful. That sound touched something inside Daniel. He remembered the lullabies his wife once sang, the soft hum that filled their home when life was still full of warmth. His heart tightened. For the first time in years, he felt something more than emptiness. But then a thought struck him like a blade. What if she is dangerous? She was alien. She was powerful. If she saw him, what would she do? Kill him, call others? Or worse, use him for her strange house? His breath grew heavy. He pressed his back against the tree, trying to calm down. Yet even in fear, his eyes returned to her. There was no anger on her face, no cruelty, only focus and loneliness. Yes, he could see it clearly. The way she built, the way she worked in silence, it felt heavy, the same way he felt when he sat alone at home with no one to speak to. Brick by brick, she built. And brick by brick, Daniel's fear began to change into something else. He whispered to himself, "She's alone. Just like me." As the sun disappeared and darkness spread through the forest, the glow of her house grew stronger. It looked strange yet welcoming, like a lantern in the night. Daniel felt a pull in his chest. He wanted to step closer. He wanted to speak. But he stopped himself. Not yet, for now he would only watch. Hidden in the shadows, Daniel kept his eyes on the alien girl until the night grew deep. He told himself it was only curiosity, only caution. But deep inside, he knew the truth. He was drawn to her, not only because she was strange, but because she was building something. Something new, something alive, and he had not seen new in a very long time. When the wind blew, carrying her soft humming across the forest, Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. It felt almost like home again. He did not know who she was. He did not know why she was here. But one thing was certain. His life would not stay empty for long, and tomorrow he would return. The next morning, Daniel woke with a restless mind. He had barely slept. The image of the strange girl glowing in the forest haunted him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her placing bricks, her silver hands glowing, her voice humming that soft alien song. He told himself it was madness. Stay away, forget it. It's not your world. Yet, another voice whispered inside him, You've been empty too long. Don't walk away now. And so as the sun began to rise, Daniel found himself walking back toward the forest. His steps were slow, almost guilty, but his heart was quick, beating with a nervous rhythm. The forest was still, the air filled with the scent of damp earth and pine. He followed the same path as before, weaving between tall trunks until the glow appeared again. It was faint in the daylight but still visible, like soft fire beneath the shadows. There she was, the alien girl. She stood on the same spot, continuing her work as if she had never stopped. Her glowing bricks had grown into walls. The small house was taking shape, looking less like a ruin and more like a shelter. Daniel hid behind a tree once again. He crouched low, his breath quiet, his eyes fixed on her every movement. She did not look tired. She did not look afraid. Her focus was complete, as if nothing else in the world mattered except her building. The floating sphere moved around her, handing her new bricks like a loyal servant. With every brick she placed, the structure gave a faint hum, like a heartbeat. The sound made the forest feel alive, as if the trees themselves were listening. Daniel could not look away. He noticed small details now. The girl's fingers glowed faintly each time she touched the bricks. Her lips moved silently, whispering words he could not understand. The bricks answered her like pets obeying a master. They shifted, clicked, and sealed themselves perfectly. And then there was the humming. That strange, sad melody. She hummed as she worked, her voice soft and otherworldly. Daniel felt it crawl into his chest, stirring feelings he had long buried. Loneliness. Longing. Hope. It was as if the song carried all of it together. He wanted to step out, to speak, but fear chained him. What would he say? What would she do? Would she vanish? Would she attack? Or would she simply ignore him? So he stayed silent. Hours passed. Daniel stayed hidden, watching. Sometimes she paused and looked toward the trees as if she could sense eyes on her. His heart froze every time her glowing eyes scanned the forest. But then she returned to her work, and Daniel exhaled in relief. The more he watched, the more questions filled his mind. Where did she come from? Why build here? Was she alone? Was she running from something? The idea that she was alone troubled him. Her face, though calm, carried weight. She looked young, yet her eyes were old, heavy with stories. Daniel recognized that look because he had seen it in his own mirror, the look of someone carrying pain. At one moment she stopped. She placed her hand against the half-built wall, and her shoulders trembled slightly. Daniel's breath caught. Was she crying? No tears came, but her voice cracked when she hummed. Daniel's chest tightened. He whispered to himself, She's just like me. The widower had lived in silence too long, drowning in emptiness. Watching her, he felt a strange connection. Two lonely souls building something to survive. One built a house, the other built walls around his heart. The day grew longer. Shadows stretched across the ground, and birds sang their final songs before evening. Daniel realized he had been there for hours. Time had slipped away, stolen by the mystery before his eyes. When the sun dipped low, the alien girl stopped her work. She stood still, looking at the sky, her glowing eyes reflecting the fading light. For a moment, Daniel thought she was praying or maybe listening. Then she sat down on the ground, folding her legs, staring at her creation. Daniel dared to step closer, though still hidden. From this angle, he saw her face more clearly. She was young but not fragile. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were filled with something deeper. A longing. A wound. It was then he realized she was not just building a house. She was building a home, a place to belong. Daniel's throat grew dry. He understood. He had once built a home with his wife, brick by brick, room by room. It was more than walls, it was love, family, dreams. And when his wife died, the house became only wood and stone, empty. And here, before him, was someone trying to build the same thing alone. Darkness spread, and the glow of the half-finished house grew brighter. The alien girl stood again and continued her work, her glowing hands moving in rhythm with her song. The light spilled across the forest floor, painting Daniel's face in gold and silver. He knew he should leave. He knew this was dangerous, but he could not. Every brick she placed pulled him deeper. Every hum she sang tightened the invisible string between them. And so, when night finally wrapped the forest in silence, Daniel whispered to himself, "I will return again tomorrow," because now, he was no longer watching out of curiosity. He was watching out of need. Daniel returned for the third day in a row. His steps were quieter now, practiced. He knew exactly where to stand, where the branches would not crack, where the shadows covered him. But today felt different. The forest carried a strange weight, like the air itself knew something was about to happen. The alien girl was there again, of course, she always was, building brick by glowing brick. Her strange sphere floated near her shoulder, humming softly as it passed bricks into her hands. Her melody filled the space once more, sad, soft, and haunting. Daniel leaned against the tree, watching, but this time his chest was restless. His curiosity had grown into something heavier. The longer he stared at her, the stronger his need to speak became. Words pressed against his throat, but fear chained them back. What would he say? Hello? Would she even understand? What if she saw him as a threat? What if she called others? Others who might not be so calm. Others who might burn the whole forest down just to erase him. Daniel shook his head. He told himself, just watch. Stay silent. That is enough. But fate was already moving. The girl stopped suddenly. Her hands froze on the half-glowing wall. Her humming died mid-note. Slowly, very slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes locked directly on the tree where Daniel hid. His heart jumped to his throat. His body stiffened, every muscle screaming at him to run, but his legs would not move. He stood there, caught in her glowing gaze. She did not look away. Her expression was unreadable, calm, but sharp, as if she had always known he was there. The silence grew unbearable. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the girl spoke. Her voice was soft, broken, and strangely human. "Why, you watch me?" The words were rough, as if they were borrowed, not truly hers, but they were clear enough. Daniel's lips parted, but no sound came. He swallowed hard, then forced a whisper. I didn't mean harm." Her head tilted slightly, curious. "Then, why hide?" Daniel stepped from behind the tree, his hands raised slowly. The glow of her half-built house spilled across him, painting his tired face in light. His heart raced like a trapped bird. "I was afraid," he said. His voice cracked, years of silence heavy in it. "Afraid of you." The girl blinked, her glowing eyes softening for a moment. Then she looked back at her house, placing the last brick in her hand onto the wall. "Afraid of me?" She whispered the words as if testing them. Small. You big. Why you afraid?" Daniel almost laughed at the strange honesty. His fear felt foolish in her words, yet his chest still tightened. "Because you're not like me." The girl finally turned fully toward him. She stepped closer, slow and careful. The silver sphere floated between them, buzzing softly like a guard dog. Daniel froze as she stopped only a few feet away. For the first time, he saw her clearly. Her skin shimmered faintly, her hair glowing like strands of light. She looked young, yet her eyes carried weight, the kind that only came from loss. The sphere buzzed louder, sensing his fear. But she raised her hand, and it stilled. She studied him for a long moment before asking, "You alone?" The question cut into Daniel like a blade. His lips trembled. He could have lied. He could have turned away. But her voice was so soft, so heavy, that truth slipped out. "Yes," he whispered. "I lost my wife. I live alone now." Her eyes flickered with something. Recognition, maybe sorrow. She lowered her hand, and the sphere drifted back to her side. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the hum of the half-built house filled the silence. Then carefully, Daniel asked, "And you? Are you alone too?" The girl looked at the ground. Her lips moved, but no words came. Instead, she sat down on one of the glowing stones and stared at her unfinished walls. Daniel felt the air shift. It wasn't rejection. It wasn't anger. It was something else. A silence that spoke louder than words. He stepped closer, still careful, and lowered himself onto a fallen log near her. Not too close. Not too far. Just within the circle of light. The two sat in silence. The forest breathed around them, the house hummed, and the night crept in. For the first time in years, Daniel did not feel like an intruder in his own life. He glanced at her. She was not just building a house, she was building something to fight loneliness. He understood it because he carried the same emptiness inside, and though no more words were spoken, something unspoken passed between them. A fragile thread, invisible but real. Two souls, broken by loss, had noticed each other, and that was the beginning. The next evening, Daniel returned again. He told himself it was curiosity, but deep inside he knew it was more than that. Something about the alien girl had pulled him in. The memory of her soft, broken English, "Why you watch me," still echoed in his head. The forest welcomed him with silence, but this time he did not hide. He walked carefully into the clearing. The half-built house glowed softly, its strange walls taller now, almost forming a full shape. And there she was, just as before, laying brick after glowing brick. Her silver hair caught the fading sunlight and her hands moved with steady rhythm. But when Daniel stepped closer, she stopped. She turned, her bright eyes meeting his. The silver sphere buzzed at her side like a warning. Daniel lifted his hands slightly. "It's me," he said softly. His voice trembled. I came back." The girl tilted her head. Her expression was unreadable, but she didn't send the sphere toward him. Instead, she simply asked, "Why?" Daniel swallowed. "Because I didn't want you to be alone." Her eyes studied him, sharp and deep, before she turned back to her work. She placed another glowing brick into the wall. The hum of the house filled the air once more. Daniel stayed quiet at first, sitting on a fallen log near the edge of the clearing. He watched her work. The silence between them was heavy, but it wasn't hostile. It was the silence of two people who had lived too long without company. Finally, he spoke. "My name is Daniel." She paused. Her glowing hands hovered over the next brick. Slowly, she looked at him and said, "Lyra." The name floated in the air like a secret. Daniel smiled faintly. "Lyra," he repeated, careful not to break the fragile moment. For a while they said nothing more. She built, and he watched, and the forest seemed to hold its breath around them. But inside Daniel, words were building like pressure. He hadn't told his story in years, not to anyone, not even to himself out loud. Yet something about her, the way she worked in silence, the way she carried loneliness like a shadow, made the words spill out. "My wife." His voice cracked, but he continued. "She died 2 years ago. We had a small house not far from here. We built it together, brick by brick. It was supposed to be our forever home." He stopped, his throat tight. The weight of memory pressed down on him, but Lyra did not interrupt. She kept working, though her eyes flicked toward him briefly as if telling him she was listening. Daniel took a shaky breath. After she was gone, the house, it didn't feel like home anymore. Just walls, empty walls. Every night the silence grew heavier. And I stopped living. I only survived. His voice fell to a whisper. "Until I saw you." The words hung between them, raw and fragile. Lyra's hand slowed. She placed another glowing brick, but her movements had changed. Softer, almost uncertain. Finally, she sat back, resting her hands on her knees. For a long moment, she said nothing. The only sound was the hum of the strange house and the distant call of night birds. Then, in a voice low and broken, she said, "I run away." Daniel's chest tightened. He leaned forward slightly. "Run away? From where?" Her glowing eyes lifted to meet his. Pain flickered inside them. "My people, they want me. To live like machine. Build. Fight. Obey. No heart. No choice." She pressed her hand against her half-built house. "Here. I build for me. My house. My choice." Daniel's breath caught. He understood. More than he wanted to admit. He too had lived under a weight he could not fight. His was grief. Hers was chains. Different prisons, same loneliness. He whispered, "So you're alone too." Lyra did not answer with words, but her eyes softened, and in that silence, he heard the truth. The forest darkened as night took over, but neither moved. They sat close to each other now, not touching, not speaking, but sharing the heavy silence like two weary travelers resting by the same fire. The silver sphere floated lazily around Lyra, its glow dimmer now, as if it no longer sensed danger. Daniel noticed, but he said nothing. Instead, he closed his eyes for a moment, letting the soft hum of the alien house surround him. For the first time since his wife's death, the silence did not hurt. It was not empty. It was shared. When he opened his eyes, Lyra was watching him. Not with suspicion, not with fear, but with something else, curiosity. Maybe even trust. Daniel gave her a small smile. Maybe we don't have to be alone." Her lips parted as if to answer, but no sound came. Instead, she placed another glowing brick into the wall, her eyes never leaving his. The hum rose softly like a heartbeat, and Daniel felt something shift inside him. Something small. Something fragile. Hope. And though neither of them said it aloud, they both felt the same thing that night. A beginning. Not of walls, not of bricks, but of something deeper. Two lonely souls had finally found someone who could understand. The days passed and Daniel kept returning. Each evening he found himself in the clearing, sitting near the strange glowing walls. At first he came as a watcher, then as a listener, and slowly, as something more, like a companion who belonged in that quiet space. Lyra never pushed him away. She allowed his presence, though her words remained few. She spoke in fragments, broken English shaped by effort. But even without words, Daniel began to understand her. The silence between them became less heavy, more familiar. Her house was almost finished now. The glowing walls rose tall, forming a shape that looked both alien and human. It had a roof that curved like a wave, and walls etched with symbols that glowed faintly. At night it looked alive, breathing, pulsing with hidden energy. Daniel often sat in wonder staring at it. He had built a house once with his wife, simple and human. But this was something else. It carried mystery. It carried power. One evening, while the forest burned orange with sunset, Daniel finally asked the question that had been pressing at him for days. "What is it really? This house of yours?" Lyra's hands froze over a brick. Her glowing eyes flicked toward him, studying his face carefully. She placed the brick down, then pressed her palm against the wall. The wall answered. Symbols lit up under her touch, spreading like fire across the surface. The glow grew brighter, shifting into patterns Daniel could not read. The hum deepened, vibrating through the ground. For a moment, the air itself shimmered as if the house was more than stone, it was alive. Daniel's breath caught. It's not just a house, is it?" Lyra's voice was low, almost a whisper. "It is. Memory, protection, home." Daniel frowned. "Memory?" She nodded slowly. "Every brick remembers, holds piece of me. My voice, my thought, my dream." She tapped the wall again, and suddenly the symbols shifted, glowing brighter. The hum became a faint melody, her melody, the same sad tune she always hummed while building. Daniel's heart tightened. The walls themselves carried her song. Her loneliness was etched into the house, brick by brick. He whispered, almost afraid to disturb the moment, "You're putting yourself into it." "Yes," she said simply. So house never empty, so I never vanish. The words struck Daniel like a hammer. His wife's face flashed before his eyes. The memories of laughter, of warmth, of love that had once filled his own house. And then the silence after she was gone, the empty walls that held no trace of her voice. He felt tears sting his eyes. I wish I had that, he murmured. I wish the walls of my home had kept her laughter, her songs. Then maybe it wouldn't feel so empty. Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes softer than before. You still can, she whispered. You still alive. Daniel let out a shaky breath. He had no answer. The truth was he had stopped living long ago. But now, sitting beside this strange girl in her glowing house, he felt something stirring again. Something dangerous. Something he feared. Hope. He stood and stepped closer to the wall. His hand hovered above the glowing surface, uncertain. Can I? He asked. Lyra tilted her head. Then slowly she nodded. Daniel pressed his palm against the wall. The surface was warm, alive. For a moment he felt nothing but vibration. Then images flickered in his mind. Not his, but hers. He saw a sky filled with 3 suns. He saw tall towers shaped like spirals, glowing blue against endless deserts. He saw crowds of silver-eyed people marching in unison, their faces cold and empty. He felt her fear, her suffocation, her need to run. Daniel gasped and pulled his hand back. His heart pounded. His breath shook. That's your world, he whispered. Lyra nodded slowly, her voice trembling. Yes, my prison. Daniel stared at the house, his mind racing. So this isn't just a shelter. He struggled to find the word. It's freedom. Her lips curved in the smallest smile. Yes, my freedom, my family. One day. The word family echoed in Daniel's chest like a bell. It had been so long since he had spoken it, let alone dreamed of it. Yet here was someone not human, someone strange, someone building a dream that was not so different from his own. He whispered, almost to himself. Maybe I could help. Lyra tilted her head again, studying him. Her sphere buzzed faintly at her side, but she raised her hand and it stilled. You help? She asked softly. Daniel nodded, his voice steadier now. Yes, brick by brick. For a moment they simply looked at each other. 2 lonely souls, one human and one alien, both carrying pain, both daring to dream again. The forest grew darker, and the house glowed brighter, standing tall like a lantern in the night. And in that moment, Daniel realized something. This was not just her secret. It was becoming his too. He was no longer only watching, he was becoming part of it. The night air was still. The forest usually carried sounds, crickets, owls, rustling leaves, but on this night silence ruled. Daniel noticed it first. He had grown used to the soft hum of Lyra's house, the gentle rhythm of her building. But suddenly even that seemed quieter, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Lyra froze mid-motion, a glowing brick in her hand. Her silver eyes lifted toward the sky. Daniel followed her gaze, his chest tightening. At first he saw nothing, just stars scattered across the dark canvas of night. But then a shadow moved among them, a shape silent, massive, blocking out the starlight as it passed. It was a ship. His breath caught. Fear rose in his throat like fire. The ship glided silently, sleek and dark like a predator hunting in the sky. Faint lights pulsed along its sides. It hovered, scanning. Daniel felt the ground vibrate beneath his feet, faint but steady, as though the earth itself recognized an intruder. Lyra's face tightened. Her hands gripped the brick, and for the first time Daniel saw fear in her eyes. They found me, she whispered. The words chilled him. Who? My people, she said, her voice trembling. They want me back. Daniel's heart pounded. Back for what? Her voice grew sharp, bitter. To serve, to obey, to forget family, to forget heart. The ship lowered slightly, its faint light sweeping across the forest like searching eyes. Daniel instinctively moved closer to Lyra. What do we do? Lyra placed the glowing brick into her wall. The symbols flared brighter than ever before, spreading across the house like fire. The hum deepened, filling the air with power. The wall seemed to shiver alive, as though preparing for something more than shelter. This house, she said firmly. It protect, but not finished. I need more. Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to help, but he had no glowing bricks, no strange sphere, no alien power. He was just a broken human, a widower with nothing left but scars. Yet something inside him pushed back against that thought. He had lived in silence too long, in shadows too long, and now for the first time he had something worth protecting. "I'll help," he said, his voice steady. "Tell me what to do." Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes searching his face. For a moment Daniel thought she would refuse, but then she nodded. "Hold, carry, place, brick by brick, fast." The floating sphere whirred, carrying glowing bricks toward them. Daniel caught one, surprised at its warmth. It pulsed faintly in his hands like a heartbeat. He placed it where she pointed. At once the brick sealed itself, symbols glowing across its surface. The hum grew louder. Together they worked. Daniel carried, placed, pressed. Lyra guided, corrected, sealed. The house rose higher, brighter, alive with strange energy. Every brick added strength, every symbol added power. Above them the ship descended lower. A beam of light cut through the trees, searching. The forest lit up in harsh white as the beam swept across the ground. Daniel's stomach dropped when the light neared them. "Hurry," Lyra urged, her voice sharp with fear. They placed another brick, the wall humming louder. But the beam grew closer. Daniel's shadow stretched long across the clearing, pointing directly at Lyra's house. Then the beam stopped. Fixed on them. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through their bones. The ship hovered directly above, its dark shape massive, suffocating. Lyra grabbed Daniel's arm, pulling him toward the glowing house. "Inside," she ordered. They stumbled into the unfinished doorway just as a second beam of light crashed into the ground nearby, burning the earth. Trees crackled, smoke rising into the night. Daniel's chest heaved as fear swallowed him whole. "Are they going to land?" he gasped. Lyra's voice was grim. "Yes, they want me alive." "And me?" Her silence was answer enough. Outside, the ship rumbled. A hatch opened and smaller lights descended, floating like hunting drones. They spread through the forest, moving in patterns, scanning every shadow. Daniel pressed his back against the glowing wall, his breath shaking. He had fought nothing in his life but grief. Yet now he stood at the edge of something greater, something that could end him in seconds. But when he looked at Lyra, standing firm despite her trembling hands, something sparked inside him. He would not leave her. He would not lose someone again. The drones moved closer. The ship's rumble grew deeper. The air carried the sharp scent of smoke and metal. Lyra pressed her glowing hand against the wall, whispering words Daniel could not understand. The house answered. The walls lit brighter, symbols racing across them like fire. The hum became a roar. The drones paused, sensing resistance. Daniel felt the ground vibrate beneath him. The house itself was alive now, pulsing, ready to fight. He clenched his fists, his fear burning into determination. He was no soldier, no hero, just a broken man. But tonight he would stand. For her. For the fragile hope they had begun to build. As the first drone broke through the trees, its lights flashing red, Daniel whispered under his breath. "Let them come." And beside him, Lyra's silver eyes glowed brighter than ever before. The clearing burned with light. The alien ship loomed above like a dark sky, its beams tearing through the forest. Drones swarmed between the trees, red eyes flashing. Mechanical voices humming in a language Daniel could not understand. Inside the glowing house, Daniel and Lyra stood side by side. The walls hummed louder with every passing second, alive with strange energy. The symbols etched across the surface blazed brighter than fire, pulsing like veins of light. Daniel's heart thundered in his chest. He was only a man, an ordinary man with no weapons, no power. But tonight he would not run. He had run from grief long enough. He had hidden behind silence long enough, not now, not when someone finally needed him. The first drone flew into the clearing. Its red eye locked onto them and it released a sharp, piercing sound. Daniel flinched, but Lyra raised her hand. The symbols across the house surged with light, and a shield flared into existence. The drone's beam hit it and shattered into sparks. Daniel's eyes widened. "It works!" Lyra's jaw tightened. Sweat glistened on her pale skin. "Not for long. They stronger. I must finish." Daniel grabbed a glowing brick from the hovering sphere. He slammed it into the open gap of the wall, pressing hard. The brick sealed, glowing brighter. "Then we finish it together." The house pulsed, answering them both, but the ship above shifted. A deeper hum filled the night, vibrating through the earth. Daniel stumbled as the ground shook. Lyra's face turned pale with fear. "They bring soldiers," she whispered. Daniel's throat tightened. Soldiers, not just machines. Real beings. Stronger, faster. The kind of people who had chained her, who had stolen her freedom, and now they wanted her back. He clenched his fists. They'll have to go through me first. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes wide. For a moment she seemed ready to argue, to tell him he was weak, human, fragile. But she didn't. She only whispered, "Then we stand." The hatch of the ship opened and figures descended, tall armored beings with glowing weapons. Their eyes, cold and silver, reflected the same light as Lyra's. They moved with mechanical precision, marching toward the glowing house. Daniel's body screamed with fear. His instincts begged him to run, but he stayed. He stepped closer to Lyra, his shoulders tense, his jaw tight. The soldiers raised their weapons. Lyra pressed both hands against the wall, her voice breaking into a strange chant. The symbols on the house blazed, forming a barrier that expanded outward. The first blast struck the shield, lighting up the night like thunder. Daniel staggered at the force, but he stood firm. "What can I do?" he shouted, her voice shook. "Hold me steady." He moved behind her, gripping her shoulders as the force of the blast rattled her body. She leaned into the wall, pouring herself into it, her energy draining fast. The house glowed brighter, the hum growing into a roar. The shield held, but it trembled. The soldiers advanced. Drones circled overhead, waiting for a weakness. Daniel's heart pounded. He remembered his wife, remembered the empty nights, the silence that had swallowed him whole, and then he remembered Lyra, alone, building brick by brick, humming her lonely song. No more emptiness, no more silence. He pressed his forehead against the glowing wall, whispering, "Take me too." The house answered. Light surged from the wall, wrapping around him, filling his chest. For a moment he felt Lyra's memories again, her fear, her longing, her dream of family. But this time his own memories poured into the walls too, his wife's laughter, the warmth of their home, the pain of losing her, the emptiness that followed. The house drank it all. Lyra gasped, her silver eyes wide. She felt it too, his grief, his love, his hope. Their memories merged, flowing into the living walls together. The symbols blazed like fire. Outside, the soldiers faltered. The shield expanded, pushing them back. The drones sparked and fell from the sky, their circuits frying under the surge of energy. The ship above groaned, its hull glowing as the force struck it. With a roar, it pulled away from the clearing, its lights dimming as it retreated into the dark sky. The forest fell silent. The glow of the house softened, the hum fading into a gentle pulse. The wall stood complete now, shining with the energy of two souls bound together. Daniel collapsed to his knees, his body trembling, his chest heaving. But he was alive. Lyra knelt beside him, her silver eyes wide, filled with something new. Not just fear, not just pain. Something warmer, she whispered, her voice fragile. "You give, part of you." Daniel managed a weak smile. "So it wouldn't just be your house now. It's ours." Her lips parted, and for the first time she smiled, a small, trembling smile, but real. The forest around them felt different now, no longer just trees and shadows, but a place that carried hope. The house glowed softly, alive with their memories, their voices, their dreams. Daniel reached for her hand. She hesitated only for a moment before letting him hold it. Brick by brick, they had built more than a house. They had built the start of a family. And though the sky above was vast and full of threats, Daniel knew one truth. He was no longer alone, and neither was she.